And I think the Stonewall, even though there were protests before the Stonewall riots, I think it's important that the reason it became so well known is because back then we didn't have social media. So all we had was television. New York being the #1 television, area. So when it happened, it was shown throughout the country of what's going on. So people in Nebraska, Kansas, oh my God, I'm not alone. There are other people like me. And also for the straight allies, they were on camera saying, yes, fighting for gay rights, which didn't really ever happen. So with all this, I think that's why Stonewall is so important.
This was the place where the modern movement for LGBTQ rights really started. And the uprising for that week in 1969 really spurred the galvanizing of the movement for all of what we have now in terms of marriage rights and equality. And it also played a role in the fight during AIDS.
You can't discount the importance of the Stonewall riots. That really, because it got national coverage in the news, it really allowed folks across the country to realize that there were LGBTQ people out there who demanded to be seen, to be heard, and to be given rights, basic human rights. And it really threw off this whole movement. So many groups evolved out of that.
So there was just that desire, that long overdue national recognition was needed to happen.
When we look back at the history of Stonewall and what happened here, it's really important to think about the context. The uprising in the streets of Greenwich Village took place at a time of great tumult in the U.S. You had the women's movement, the Black Civil Rights Movement, the anti-war movement. There were often confrontations with the police, and gay people didn't live in isolation. They saw what was going on elsewhere and took inspiration from those other movements, those other confrontations with the police. So the Stonewall Uprising, in the context of history, wasn't a singular event. What made it singular was that instead of running from the police, which gay people often did, the police were chased by gay people. They were chased mostly by these young kids. And that scared the police and empowered gay people.
And I think we understand here at the Stonewall Inn that legacy and the responsibility of that legacy. That's why we started our own nonprofit in 2017, the Stonewall Gives Back Initiative, because again, we understand it's not just a bar. It really is something that represents that movement. And to utilize this particular bar as that global platform to keep that fight alive of everything that started here in 1969.
The Stonewall Gives Back Initiative is the official nonprofit for the Stonewall Inn and only. So just so you know that. I also, Stonewall to me means strength in numbers. Every time you put a rock on that wall, we become stronger and stronger and stronger.
Then we were also fortunate enough to work with the Parks Department and other stakeholders when they were discussing making the National Monument. We got a tour with Secretary then Jewell, who was the Secretary of Interior, and we toured her around the space when they were looking at historical LGBTQ sites to make into monuments. And then working with other different stakeholders, local officials, national officials, to kind of make the Stonewall Monument out front of the area here in the park across the street. So for us, that was an overwhelmingly positive experience and probably something we'll never forget.
I was in a meeting and I heard about the study, the LGBTQ study, and then I heard that there was an advocacy group who was pushing for President Obama to establish Stonewall as a national monument. So I was asked to be on a committee, and there was a lot of background information that I had to perform in order to get the information. We had to do some research. There's also some budgeting that we had to create and establish. And then I finally got the call that Stonewall National Monument was going to be proclaimed by President Obama.
And then actually when we found out that the monument was going to happen, I remember being in my home and getting a call from the White House, and we had an LGBTQ liaison, and my first reaction was, wait, I didn't even know we had an LGBTQ liaison.